Hey, this is attorney Elizabeth Potts Weinstein, and today we're going to talk about, should you close your business, pivot your business, or keep pushing on? So if you've had a business for a while, could be a couple months, it could be a couple years, you may gotten to a point where things are not going well. It could be that you're not making as much money as you need to. It could be that you launched things and it flopped. It could be that things were going up for a while and now they're going down. It could be based on all kinds of different factors, but it is not working. And so how do you know when you need to completely stop this business, completely shut it down, versus pivoting something in your business and going a different direction, versus just keeping at what you're doing? Now, the first thing I want to say is you have to ignore sunk costs. You may have heard this before, but if you haven't, you have to ignore sunk costs. What I mean by that, and what the idea of sunk costs is that you have invested time, money, energy, goodwill, all kinds of things, your reputation into this business. A lot of people will make a logical error where they will think, oh, I've invested so much time, energy, whatever into this business. I need to keep doing it. And they'll keep doing it way too long. You have to ignore everything that was put into this business up until today. You have to consider it as if none of that happened, because you can't get that back. Think about someone who's gambling in Vegas and they've already bet thousands of dollars, and they think, well, if I just win this one hand, I can get all that money back. Okay. That money is gone. Okay. That time is gone. That energy is gone. Now, I'm not saying that it didn't actually happen, because of course it did. But to make a decision going forward, the investment of time, energy, money, reputation, all that stuff has to be ignored as not being a factor going forward in the business. Just start at where you are today. So that's first thing I want you to consider, ignoring sunk costs. Don't think about all the time, energy, and money, because that is not what you're going to be doing. You're looking forward, not back. The second thing is, I want you to be real about your personal needs. So for example, I've seen people who start up a business and how they fund the business is with personal credit card debt. And they have put, huge amounts, $50,000, $60,000, $70,000 of their personal credit card debt into building out a store, or whatever it is for this business, maybe inventory, things like that. And they haven't even made $1 yet. And they're not working right now. So they're not bringing in anything. I've also seen people where they have major health problems. They had surgery, they are going to be out for months, they have cancer or whatever, some major health problems. Maybe it's a family member they're taking care of, all kinds of different things. You need to be real about whether or not it is possible to keep running this business right now because of everything that's going on in your life. It may be that this business has to be a side gig while you get a full-time job, or even a part-time job to keep paying the bills. It may be that you have to take a break from this business for some period of time to deal with your health issues or your family issues or whatever it is. So you have to be real about that. It may also be that you can't keep running this business. You need a part-time job just to pay the bills, or you need a full-time job to have health insurance, because this is the United States, so health insurance is tied to jobs many times. So you have to be real about your particular needs. And it may be that this business just isn't something that you can do right now. You may do it in the future, but you can't do it right now. There's a lot of things that you could do. You could sell it. You could sell it to the business partners and have them buy you out. You could sell it to a stranger. You could just pause it and put it to the side. But it may not be something you can do right now. The third thing to think about is, have you actually given this enough time? I think people see someone take off on TikTok, or they see some article written about someone who made it big, and they think that these things happen in the period of weeks. And don't be wrong, people can go viral on YouTube or TikTok or whatever the social media is by the time you're watching this, and get a lot of press or a lot of notoriety in a very short period of time. But that doesn't, number one, it doesn't mean that you actually make any money. I've gone viral before where I had a Twitter thread actually that went viral. I was interviewed on TV. I had articles with my stuff in it in many of the newspapers of the world. And I got no clients from that. 0 clients, made $0. So going viral does not mean anything, which is maybe it should even be a separate point. But giving it enough time, I think, is a big issue for people because they see these crazy things happen for people. They see these amazing things happen for people and they think, oh, you should be able to make money in a business in a month or two. Typically, you're going to need 2 to 3 years to make a profit. And I define a profit as where you can actually pay yourself. So you need to be able to run this business, this is on average, of course, for 2 to 3 years before you're going to be able to pay yourself to replace your day job income. It doesn't mean you have zero profit. Like you can actually start, especially a service-based business, where you can make profit from the very beginning, but it's not going to be enough to like pay the mortgage or pay your rent from the very beginning unless you just happen to be lucky. And being lucky is not a business plan, right? So if it's only been 6 months, it may just not have had enough time. You need this time to build up a list of clients or customers, to refine your products or services, to actually learn how to be good at this. It takes time to do that. So if it has been 2 or 3 years and it's possible for you to put in more time and energy, which it may not be, but if it's possible, then I would say you haven't gotten to the point where you should shut the business down yet. But it has to be possible for you to run it, because for a lot of people, they can't go 2 to 3 years without making any money. Now, one of the ways to handle that is to have this business be a side gig, and then you have some kind of part-time or full-time job that pays the bills. Next thing I want you to think about is, do you actually want to run this business anymore? So one thing that's going to happen is you could have a business that went fine for a while, and then it starts to like make less money and less money and less money. And you realize one of the reasons it's making less and less money is because you're no longer excited about it. And it could be many reasons. It could be because you're not enjoying doing this work anymore. It could be that the market has shifted and you're just not that excited about it. It could be the entire economy. It could be your personal goals have changed. It could be that you need to be learning new things and you've been doing this too long to really be learning new things. Now, this is a case where sometimes it makes sense to shut down the business, but sometimes it actually makes sense to just pivot, where you can go into something that is a better fit for you personally. And it could be something where, before you always did a service and now you're going to teach other people to do this service, right? The idea is that you may be staying in the same industry, in your profession, whatever it is, but now you're shifting into something that actually is exciting for you and interesting for you and is going to even build a better business for you. So when you're looking at your business to decide, does it make sense to shut it down, to pivot, to keep pushing on? The number of things you want to look at. Some of it is just your plain old numbers. Okay, so we're going to look at your profit and loss statement. Are you making a profit? Are there aspects of your business that are profitable? So back when I was still taking legal clients, I had a number of different ways I helped people. One was general counsel work. One was flat fee work. One was hourly work. And then I had some other things that I did too. But the general counsel work made the most money as a sense of like the overall amount of money, but it also took the most time. So it was the least profitable part of my business. Then the flat fee work, the most profitable part of my business. It was kind of like it worked out as a good balance. The amount of money was good. The amount of time it took was very reasonable for the amount of money it made. It really fit together. The hourly work was also not very profitable because while I was charging the right amount per hour, I had to deal with a lot more randomness in that kind of work. People then didn't pay the bills on time because I wasn't getting paid up front, et cetera, et cetera. And it was a lot of logistical headaches. And all that admin involved made it less profitable for me. And that's what I mean. There's times in your business where you may actually be launching a product or a program and it looks like it's making money or your overall business is profitable, but that aspect of it is not. And this is a great time for pivoting in this, is that you can look at different aspects of your business. And there's a lot of people who've written about this where, there's 20% of your clients that bring in 80% of your revenue, that kind of stuff. You can look at your clients, your customers, your product lines, services that you provide and say, there's certain ones that actually don't make sense to do. Now, for general counsel stuff, I got great referrals for my flat fee legal services, so it didn't make sense to just stop doing that all of a sudden. I eventually stopped doing that because I've shifted my business overall to doing YouTube stuff, but for a long time I was still doing it because it wasn't that it wasn't profitable at all. and because I got so many referrals. So you do have to look at things like that. It can make sense to have a product or a service that is even a loss if it brings in leads for people to buy other things from you. You also want to look at some just basic things. What are your expenses? Can you lower a whole bunch of your expenses for your business to make more money? Maybe you have a big bloat of all kinds of monthly fees you're paying in all kinds of different places. Similarly, what are you charging for your products and services? Are there things that definitely where you could charge more and it would make sense to charge more? There's a weird thing that can even happen is sometimes when you raise your fees, you actually get more clients because you put yourself into a different level of quality, and then people will buy more. This is for products or services. So playing around with different price points and running tests and seeing what makes sense can just overall extremely increase the profitability of your business. You also want to look at what you're actually selling. So if you're trying to sell things and people are not buying it, or there's not enough people are buying it, you want to think about, do people want this or do they need it? So I've had a number of friends and clients who have started businesses selling a product or service that people need, but they don't want. I've even had this happen for me in my business. It's like, people need this thing. They need it for their business, but they don't feel the wanting. Wanting is an emotion, and you can intellectually need something. But if you don't want that thing, it is very hard to get people to buy that. And so you have to consider that. And I've seen that with many businesses that fail, and people invested so much time and money and energy into it, and it wasn't something that people wanted. Now, I'm not saying that they're going to always understand that they want it in the beginning from the perspective of that specific product. So, there's that famous story where the idea is, if we had asked people what they wanted, they would have wanted faster horses. But of course, they made cars for those people. I'm not saying that someone has to necessarily want your product or service, but the idea is they have to feel the desire, the want to solve that problem. And if they don't really care that much about that problem, if they don't perceive it as a problem, then they're not going to pay you to fix it for them with that product or that service. Sometimes you can convince people, you can do a bunch of education, but that is a long haul. And it really depends upon your market and whether or not that makes sense to even do. Another thing you have to consider is, has the market changed? And this is like if you've had a business that's gone well for a while and now it's not. I've had this in my own business where I used to have a lot of clients who were life coaches. And this is years ago. Huge life coach section of my business. And I don't now. And actually now I'm not taking new clients. But then that went away over the years. Part of the reason is because life coaching was a trend for people to get into and set up their businesses, and everyone was talking about it online, all this stuff. So the trend just went away. Now, part of it was also a shift in the economics of it. So there were a lot of people who, when interest rates were low, would just set up a business using credit cards. Now, if I'm filming this in April of 2023, interest rates are not low anymore. Credit card interest rates are usually going to be over 20%, especially for a business credit card. And so it doesn't make sense to finance things instead of just doing things on a shoestring. Of course, then there could be some huge economic shift, right? There could be pandemic or whatever giant thing or recession or whatever is going on that could shift everything. People don't have as much access to credit. They're being very conservative about how they spend money, and they don't buy your thing. So it is important to be real about what has happened in the economy overall, or in your industry, or in your particular business, and look at, have things shifted? So what should you actually do if any of these things are applying to you? So what I recommend is, first, like I talked about at the very beginning, you have to look at your personal needs and wants to set a time frame for how much more you're going to give this. Can you give this business another 3 months? Can you give this business another 2 years? It's going to be somewhere in between there. Okay. It's going to be somewhere in between. Okay. I can't give this business very much more time at all, or I can do this for another couple of years before I have to move on. You want to give yourself some kind of general deadline. So for example, I shifted my business from a law firm operating in a somewhat traditional way with clients and flat fees and some hourly work and general counsel work to YouTube is the short version of that shift. And I gave myself 2 to 3 years. And to be able to pay myself from YouTube instead of paying myself from my law firm. That's a very reasonable amount of time to make a big shift. But you have to give yourself a chunk of time because it will take time, especially if it's a large shift into a different kind of business, to learn how the new business works or the new line works. You have to give enough time to test. If it's a smaller shift, you can test it in just a couple months or even less than that. So the first thing I recommend you do is to try small pivots. Looking at your business and looking at price changes, reducing expenses, changing your marketing strategy, testing out different kinds of marketing strategy. I mean, this YouTube channel actually just started in the very beginning, was in 2020 because I lost so many clients because of the pandemic shutdowns, and I needed to put myself out there more. And that was this YouTube channel. It was just a marketing test in the beginning. So what are small things you can do to change marketing, to change pricing, to tweak your current services, to tweak your target market that you can test in a relatively short time frame? And this is what I'm talking about is in months, 1 to 3 months kind of a time frame, and see if that's going to be enough or it's going to start the momentum for you moving forward. Now, if that isn't enough, then you're going to need to start making larger pivots. Then looking at things like totally changing the kind of stuff you're offering, totally change your products and services, totally changing your target market. Same kind of idea in your services, products, and marketing, but much larger, either spending money or time changing things. The next thing I would try after that is actually a different business model or a totally different market. So different business model would be something like you were charging for your services, some kind of consulting thing, and you're going to change to a completely different business model where it's like a subscription monthly website. Okay. Or it is something where you were funded via ads and now you're going to be funded by a Patreon. It could be something where people buy your products individually and now they sign up for a monthly subscription service. So a big, huge shift of how you package things would be that kind of a level of change, because that's going to take a lot of work to do. Usually for services, not quite as much, but it will still take time to convert people over to this new thing. You also may try a different market. So like what I said, the life coaching stuff disappeared. So I had to look for different people. One of the ways I did it was with YouTube, but I also did it where I spoke on different podcasts and did different speaking engagements for other kinds of markets. Like I had a group of therapists. I had a whole bunch of therapist clients. Very similar to life coaches in the sense of individual people. And then some of them were therapists who were starting life coaching businesses, but a different market. People who listen to different podcasts, who read different blogs, who watch different videos. That's what I mean is a different group of people. And it will take time and energy to develop that. But obviously it's something you can do. So if you're getting close to that deadline that you've set for yourself, from a realistic, how much time and money can you give this in the future, that could be 3 months or 2 years or whatever it is, then you need to start thinking about what is a realistic end for this. So do you need to shut down the business, sell the business, or sell the assets of the business? It really depends on the kind of business that you have. If your business doesn't really have very many assets, doesn't really have very many debts, if it doesn't really make that much money, then it may make the most sense to just shut it down in an orderly way. Now, if it actually has a fair amount of assets, intellectual property, a huge customer client list, prospect list, it has a lot of good branding out there, you may be able to sell it, either the asset, the operating business itself. I have friends and acquaintances who have sold businesses for a significant amount of money and they sold it before the business went down the drain, if you know what I mean. Like the business had kind of turned the corner and they're like, oh, sell the business right there. Let someone else do it. If it is something that can be run without you, that is definitely possible. Now, the last thing that you may have to consider is if your business has a significant amount of debt, it may need to declare bankruptcy instead of just shutting down. So typically this is if it has small business loans, it has a significant amount of credit card debt. That's not your credit card debt, it's the business's credit card debt. It owes money to suppliers, whatever. If there's a lot of debt, you can't just shut it down. You need to talk to a bankruptcy attorney who does business bankruptcies about what you need to do. I mean, I'm not going to go into all the details on a video because it really depends upon your particular situation. Now, I've actually had friends who have had to not just declare bankruptcy for the business, but also personal bankruptcy because they had co-signed the loans, or some of the debt was actually their personal debt, like on their credit cards and stuff. And that's really sucks, okay, right? But it is better to know that going in so you can make a good decision about what makes sense to go forward. Because sometimes it makes sense to just cut off any more money going down this drain so you can move forward. But you'd want to do is talk to your accountant about the real numbers of your business, meet with a bankruptcy attorney, see what can get discharged, see what debt is yours versus the business's, and see what makes sense for you. So again, this is attorney Elizabeth Potts Weinstein. I hope this video was helpful. I think there's a lot of stuff here, a lot more that we can talk about in the future. So if you have any questions or any other topics you'd like covered under the same category, feel free to leave them in the comments below and I'll try to point you in the right direction, and we can talk about what other things should be covered in a future video. Thumbs up if you found this video helpful. Subscribe for more videos like this for small business owners and online entrepreneurs. And then if you would like to connect more, you can join the Discord or the Patreon. Links are below. Thanks a lot for watching. Bye.